All right, welcome to Roots of Reality Experiences. Today I'm joined by Tigran Langman, who is a TikTok influencer with over 1 million followers, who teaches English to Russian speakers around the world. So Tigran, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
So when did you first get interested in languages?
Pretty much ever since I was a kid, I remember listening to foreigners. As you know, I grew up in a church, religious environment, and we had a lot of foreigners, missionaries, come to Russia and preach. And so, ever since I was a kid, I remember loving listening to their speech, which I at that time could not understand. And I was like, this sounds interesting. I wonder how they communicate using these weird words, because my first two Armenian and Russian languages, I knew those, mediums, those are familiar to me. But then I was, uh, I was just wondering. I loved listening to them and imagining their world, kind of, living there in their world. And yeah, so that's how it all started for me.
All right, so you kind of grew up in an environment then where you had like American missionaries around and
Yeah,
speaking English to you, and that kind of,
right.
I guess, spurred your interest in learning the language yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny. Like whenever I think people interact with someone from a different part of the world, you do kind of get this exotic vibe from them, like, oh, this person is so interesting because they're living a totally different life. Um,
Right.
and you kind of wonder, like, what is it like to be you?
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. What is it like to be you? What is it to speak like you and understand the things that the words you guys are using? Yeah.
Yeah, that it's kind of this interesting, just human curiosity we have, where these people are so much like us, but at the same time, they're different just a little bit.
There you
So,
go.
cool. And so, why did you decide to become an English language influencer then? I feel like there's not the most like common path for influencers. A lot of people want to be models or comedians or something, but why that?
I mean, why influencer, not tutor, just influencer
Well,
specifically?
that too. That's the other aspect, is because I mean you're a social media influencer who focuses on like teaching English. And of
Yeah.
course, you could have been any type of influencer, or you could just be an English teacher. So why did you choose this path?
Well, okay. At the time I started TikTok, I had been tutoring for I think a year or so. And so the reason I started TikTok and social media in general, because I think my third student texted me one day, "I'm sorry, I don't want to do classes with you anymore." I was like, okay, totally get it, but could you please give me some feedback so I can, do some
Sure.
self work and improve?" And one of the things she sent me, five points, I think, and among those was this one. She said, you're not on social media. You don't exist on social media. You don't teach, you don't give free information, you don't help out people with, language stuff, questions, grammar, and everything. I was like, interesting. And I started doing YouTube. I started doing YouTube, 2 years, zero results. And then TikTok came along. I started doing that. And I used all my failures and experiences from YouTube, took it everything to TikTok, and it worked slowly but surely. So that's the reason why I started social media, because of criticism, actually.
Yeah. That's interesting. So someone was just wondering, like, okay, like you're not on social media, like everyone should be on social media today. And that's kind of just made you think like, oh, okay, maybe I could do something with that.
Yeah. That's how it was. That's how it was.
So, when it comes to like getting success on social media platforms, it seems like it's the more established a platform is, the more well known it is, the harder it is to kind of, blow up on there and get really popular really fast. So like how much do you think of you getting on TikTok was like, TikTok was still kind of the newer app. How much was it like kind of about timing, you think, uh also with the content that you're producing that obviously was very popular as well?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So like you said, when I started TikTok, it was pretty fresh. It was a new thing in Russian speaking space, especially. So I was actually one of the first English influencers in the Russian speaking space. So I got about 100,000 followers in about a month and a
Wow.
half, maybe. Yeah, I popped off. I popped off back then, but that wasn't because my content was good. That was
Yeah.
because there wasn't a lot of English influencers. One of the first, and but then my growth slowed down a little bit because again, I was new to content
Yeah.
creation. I wasn't very good at it. It's slowed down a little bit, and then I started asking myself questions again. Okay, what happened? Why is this happening? What do I do? How do I take my content to the next level? I started studying the art and the science of content creation, of videos, of interest, um, at, how to get people's attention, how to make them watch your video till the end, view retention, audience retention, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then my growth again, I have now 1 million, which is again on TikTok. It's not too much. It's nothing too crazy. There's a lot of bloggers with 1 million. It's 1 million on YouTube is a different story. So with YouTube is a lot more difficult now. So yeah, but I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I want to grow on all platforms. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, a million is still pretty ridiculous when you think about it. A million people following you on something is kind of insane. So,
yeah,
I
yeah,
suppose, it depends on like how many people are on a platform, and then over time, as more people get on, then that average of being able, like having a million followers means more. The more people that exist that don't have many followers, because then that I guess that they're the average person and the number of followers they have drops as more people join the platform. I suppose. Um, Maybe there's some
oh,
aspect of that.
that's an interesting way to look at things, actually.
Because I just wonder, because like with Instagram and stuff like that, people aren't there's not nearly as many people, I feel like, getting as many followers as they did when Instagram was still a new platform. And but more people are joining Instagram every day. So it seems like the number that you have means more over time, because there's so many people that have less followers. Um, like I guess the same thing goes with podcasting a little bit. Like there's
Yeah.
millions of podcasts out there, but even if you have just a few listeners, like that's more than most podcasts, which have zero. So
Mhm. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's actually a good point. If you don't stop making content, if you continue producing content, if you continue doing what you're doing, eventually because a lot of people, again, not everyone who has 1 million followers is gonna continue making content. A lot of them quit, they lose motivation.
yep,
There's a lot of reasons. So, but if you continue, eventually you're gonna be one of those, big influencers on the platform. So
sure.
it doesn't matter if it means a lot on TikTok or not. Eventually, you're gonna be, up there with
Yeah. Yeah.
big
That's pretty
big
cool.
guys, so to say.
The
So yeah,
big guys. It's right. Be up there with Tigran one day. One day,
it
kids.
helps. It helps psychologically too, because when you have 800,000 followers, say the difference between somebody who has 800,000 followers and 1 million followers is actually just 200,000 followers. Not it's not a lot, but psychologically, because there's just one, the number is one. It says million. I
Yes.
think it helps you with it helps you with people's trust. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this 1 million, he's got to be legit.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
think that's exactly right. Because yeah, if you have those sort of solid numbers that are easily recognizable, that just stand out, so that one M on a platform looks much better than, oh, I have 999,236. It's like people are like, oh, that's not the same, right? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
right. Right. I
the
remember.
visual there.
I remember. I wanted to at some point. I wanted to buy promotion for different bloggers, and I remember texting them, "Hey, I'm this TikTok creator. I have," and at the time I had 960,000 followers, I believe. And I remember thinking, okay, I wonder what do I write here? 960, almost 1 million. What do for it to sound as cool as possible? That was interesting.
Yeah, that yes, you kind of got to sell yourself a little bit with that, and
Yeah.
it's always challenging. Yeah, what to say? What's the best way of saying it? I mean, in life, I guess everything's kind of like that to a certain extent. If you're applying for a job, you want to make sure you're writing your resume in a way that's going to make you look good, and sound good. So you just kind of have to. I mean, I guess that's one of the things when you're trying to advertise yourself, you don't want to sell yourself short. You want to be, promoting yourself and making yourself sound as good as possible. So it's not
Right.
a good time to be modest when you're trying to pitch yourself to someone. So,
I agree with you totally there.
so, what problem did you see with, the, the teaching of the English language, in the Russian speaking world that inspired you to, want to do this? Or was this just mostly you just want to help teach people English in general?
Okay, so that's where we're going. Okay. So that's a good one. The problem with teaching and learning English, not just in Rush with Russian speakers, but in the world in general, is that pretty much in every other area, every other niche, wherever you go, if you want to play tennis, say table tennis, right? If you want to get better at it, what do?
Practice.
You just go and play more. Exactly. If you want to ride a bike or whatever you do, swim, do card tricks, solve Rubik's Cube. I don't care. You just practice. Just go out there and do the thing that you want to get better at. But with English, with languages in general, it's so different. For some reason, the world sees the language learning process as, oh, you have to study grammar, um, you have to know all these specific and advanced and
Yep,
hard rules
that's true.
and everything. It's not the case at all. I moved to Georgia about 4 months ago. About 4 months ago, I started again. I almost said learning, not learning. I started practicing it, and the way you practice is, you have to watch, listen to, or do something through that language. I don't. It could be anything. Talking about stuff that interests you, playing games, watching cartoons, but it has to be easy, simple, and you just have to do it as these things as much as you can, and that's how language gets into your brain, not
Yeah.
through grammar, not through learning all these rules and subtle differences. What's the difference between home and house? I don't care. What's the difference between like and as? I don't care. You'll get it as you get into practice, because you need to expose yourself to as much practice as you can, and those things will just come naturally. Okay, if some of them don't, all right, you can look up some. Okay, what's the difference here? What's this subtle nuance here? You can look those up. But the perfect ratio that I found is 95% practice, 5% grammar and rules, technicalities. Only just 5%. But people do 95% grammar, and then okay, maybe I'll try to do something with that now. Let's talk. I'm gonna find a native speaker on iTalk. There's not iTalk. I think it's iTalk. There's an app called iTalk for language.
Sure, there's
Like,
various platforms to find people. Yeah.
yeah.
But that's interesting to me because I think that you're hitting on something, really interesting, and also, kind of an issue in the US as well. The way that languages are taught, foreign languages in the US, this is probably an issue in many places, though some countries clearly are doing better than others when it comes to how many people can speak multiple languages. I go across Europe, Western Europe, when I was living there in the Netherlands, everyone spoke English pretty well. And that must be a byproduct of how they teach in their education system. But in the US, almost nobody can speak a second language when they're learning it through school. And the big problem is that, as you said, they're mostly focusing on grammar rules and, all these different aspects that could make you a decent writer and reader, but not very interesting way of learning a language. And there's very little speaking practice. When you don't practice, you're not going to learn much. It's just, it's great if you can read something, but if you can't speak it, that's the most important aspect of having a language skill. And
Mhm.
so I think that's really interesting. I mean, obviously the grammar and everything else is important, but that's more also important for people that are like, trying to become an academic level speaker of a language. When you're just getting started though, you just want to learn, anything. You just want to be
Yeah.
just believe that you can actually speak the language in the first place. And I think that's what's cool with what you're doing, because you're getting people interested in a language that obviously is very important around the world today. And while if you were just teaching grammar rules, a lot of people would be just like, "Oh, this is too hard. I'm not going to do this." I'm not going to waste my time.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people quit. Yeah, because they think, A, this language is too hard. B, I'm too stupid for it
Yeah,
to learn it. Yeah. Neither are true, by the way.
yeah,
So, long story short, basically, it all boils down to starting to speak the way we should go about it is the way we started speaking our native languages when we were kids. I basically replicated that exact same way, the exact same experience for English.
yeah,
We just enjoyed, went through our life doing the things that we're interested in just through this target language or native language in that case. But that's the hardest part too, because you have to build a experience, a path, so that it's both easy and fun for complete beginners. That's the hardest part, because you can watch a lot of content for beginners on the internet, but it's either fun but difficult, or it's really, really simple,
yeah,
but just boring
yeah.
as hell. So that's the challenge I had to overcome to make something that's both fun and simple.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool and also impressive, because it's not like, you know, you weren't growing up your whole life probably planning on becoming like a TikTok, English teacher type. You're basically someone who's just, through yourself has learned this language and is now replicating that process for others and trying to help them learn.
Yeah. That's what happened pretty much, I would say, because again, with the church I grew up in, the environment, a lot of Americans, I just practiced them a lot.
Yeah.
I only got into grammar when I was pretty good at English. I only then got, okay, let me see, let me dig into some more advanced stuff because I want to sound like a native.
Yeah.
I want to know all of it. Give me all of it now.
Yeah.
By that time, I could already speak at a pretty fluently.
Yeah, I mean and we look at like throughout history. I mean, the way people learned languages was basically just immersing themselves in a language and practicing all the time. I mean, today there's obviously people that are experts in languages, linguists that are at universities teaching languages, and that's great. But if someone's not interested in the language and don't have the basic knowledge of it, it's very hard to pick it up in college, which is
Mhm.
why, most students, for example, when I went to college in the US, most people were, everyone was required to take a language. Almost nobody actually learned much by the time they finished those courses, because they
Mhm.
might take it for a
Right.
couple years, and then they're like, okay, this is at the point where it's just too hard, too much grammar stuff. We're not speaking much. I can't speak much. There's no point in continuing, and they drop
Exactly.
it. The only people that would actually learn a language fluently at the university were the people that would literally, that would be their major. That would be their focus of their study, was this language.
Mhm.
So I definitely think that this is something that more people should be engaged with, just practicing speaking. I know when I was a kid, I went to a summer language camp to study French at this academy. This academy it was like a private school academy in the eastern coast of the United States in New Hampshire called Kimball Union Academy. And they had a
Right.
program with a university called Dartmouth College, where it would be like a language camp for kids, but it was completely different than my experiences in school, because instead of learning grammar rules, the whole thing was speaking languages and talking to
Mhm.
people. And they had this method that was created by a professor at Dartmouth College they used, called the Rossius method, where it was all about just speaking with people and trying to get them to learn the language by just talking to them. That's all you did. You didn't do any writing or reading. It was just talking, talking, talking. And I learned more there than I did in my years of being in school. So in those two
Yeah.
weeks.
That's awesome. That's an awesome approach. However, that works for kids. Again, the completely no grammar approach works for kids because their brain they're a
Yeah.
little quicker. They learn faster. Their brains are more flexible. But for adults, you have to throw in a little bit of. It goes like this. We basically you explain them a rule how sentences are formed in English. Okay, this goes here. This is here. This is here. All right, go ahead. Now let's and then we get to practice. So you have to do some explanation, some amount of
Yes.
explanation,
Yeah.
and then but then still 90% of the process still practice.
And,
Yeah.
and that was actually the other aspect to it too. I mean, it was basically the way we were speaking is we had some of these confined rules about we were trying to use like different parts of a sentence and practice speaking with that part of the sentence so we could understand the rule. And so like, okay, basically there was like a teacher in a circle and the students would surround the teacher, and they do this at the university too, at Dartmouth at least. And basically, the teacher would say a sentence and you're supposed to like add on to that sentence using the correct, rules or whatever. And they would just randomly pick on people in the circle and like snap at you. And you had to, add on to that sentence, and the next person add on to that sentence, and just kind of, like you were talking about with adults, trying to engage them while having these subtle aspects that so you kind of understand more about what you're doing. You're not just
Right.
blindly talking.
Yeah. Fun. It
But
was fun, right?
what
It was fun, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a much more engaging process, and so
Mhm.
you were staying awake because you didn't want to be called on, obviously, and look like an idiot, embarrassed in the
Yeah.
circle. But yeah, it was interesting. So it's cool with that type of approach and what you're doing with all those
Yeah, it's an
followers.
awesome thing. Yeah, what happened to you, the camp approach is an awesome thing because as long as you understand what's going on and it's fun
Yeah,
and it of course revolves around practice,
yeah.
that's
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the goal is to make these things not a pain to do. No one wants
Mhm.
to learn something if they hate it. So it's
Right, right.
you gotta make it interesting.
Hmm.
Um, now,
Totally.
how do you come up with content for TikTok and stuff? Because you're always coming out with these videos and obviously these creative scenes. A lot of them are pretty funny. How do you do this?
A lot of them, not all of them.
Depends on the one, I guess. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but that's true. That's true. That's to the point that I brought up. Um, so a lot of it, of course, is what you've already seen. In every niche, wherever you go, so you have seen some stuff on the internet, movies, short movies, cartoons, other creators, fun videos, Mr. Beast, whatever. So all of those things are in your head. And then when you start thinking about, okay, what do I want to show people? What do I want to do? What do I want to create? Somehow those ideas combine and merge and subtract, and you come up with something considering what your audience would like. So you kind of find that where those two areas cross, the crossover between those two areas, and okay, maybe we can work with this.
So you're just kind of brainstorming, I guess, just thinking of ideas that could relate to people that are following your content then.
Yeah. I watch closely, just in general, in all niches, what people like, regardless of again the niche, whether languages or just giving out money. I'm just trying to pay attention to what people like in general. A lot of engagement, likes, views, comments, and use that as source, as my source for my ideas, what I
Yeah.
make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I guess, part of a big part of the creative process for creating, social media content. And obviously, the more entertaining you can make things, the more engaging it is for people, the more they'll want to follow it. That's the kind of the big trigger for people on things like TikTok, because you get these short second videos. You got to make an impact like immediately with your video and catch attention.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to, again, just choosing, just paying attention to the platform and choosing what already works, what has worked for others, and using that, for your own content. And part of it as well is experimenting again. So just going out there with completely new stuff, which I did, by the way, success. One of my experiments was really good. That format popped off. It's a format where I've seen this. Now it's all over TikTok. I'm not saying people have stolen it from me, but what I'm saying,
Yeah.
somebody should have done it first. And I'm again not sure I was the first one, but I saw this concept again in a completely different niche. There's this guy. So it's a scene. The guy. It's a concept where school situation, and this guy sits down, goes, "Hey, don't chew your gum." He's like the guy who sits next to you, in school.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't chew your gum. And then he has your text. You have to respond something. There's the text you have to read, and as if it's a life situation, a dialogue. You respond
Interactive.
something. Yeah, he's being annoying. Oh, I'm gonna tell the teacher. That kind of stuff. And it plays out the situation with a twist at the end.
Okay.
So I took that and used for English as, okay, guys, let's practice English. I have an interesting situation. What would you do? What would your dad do if he caught you, let's say, drinking, but in America? This is for Russian speakers. Yeah. What would your American dad do if he caught you drinking in America? Your text is yellow, for example, and I read white, they read yellow, and so yeah, I got lots of million views with this format.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good when you try something new and it pays off and it works. Oh, best feeling ever.
I mean, how many hours would you say you put into content production?
Production starts with the idea, right?
Yeah.
It was okay. So one video could take me, starting from the idea to the moment I upload it, anywhere from the fastest would be 3 days, I'd say. 3 days would be the fastest, to a week, 2.
And how many hours a day would you say you're putting into that one video?
That's an interesting question. So there's a term, something like calculated procrastination or healthy procrastination. So according to this theory, when you have an idea, if you let it kind of grow on you, it will be better eventually if you give it, say, 3-4 days, rather than if you went right away for it and shot it immediately. So that considered, maybe I'm thinking about an idea for a couple of days, and then I shoot it. That takes 1 day, and then the editing, and we're from 1 to 2 days. So there you have it, about a week.
So quite a bit of work there then. Yeah.
Yeah, most of it is idea. Idea is everything. When it comes to social media, interesting videos, getting people's attention, idea is everything. But then the execution too has to be on point.
Now, when you've reached a level of popularity on social media, like TikTok, for example, and you're starting to basically you're competing against other influencers to a certain extent, as you naturally are, just like a business, competing with another business. How much pressure is there to stay popular?
How much pressure is there to stay popular compared to?
Well, I mean, obviously, everyone's looking at how many views a video got, for example.
Oh, I see what you mean.
How much pressure is there to continue to, get all those videos that get millions of views or whatever? Is it mentally pretty draining at times, to keep track of that stuff? Or
it used to be. I'm going to be honest with you. It used to be. I would have a lot of, I'd say, depressed periods in my life because my videos are not getting views. What's wrong with me? What is it that I'm missing? But then again, every stage, every period of time, every depression, not depression, just an anxiety period, I would say, you hit, you could use it one of two ways. You can either give up or I suck, I'm quitting this, or you can use that to fuel your motivation. Okay, I'm going to overcome this and I'm going to become better. I'm going to create better content now. And the way I've always gone for is a second. I've always used that frustration, I would say, as fuel to motivate myself and push harder and try better and think better and come up with better ideas and work, Um, so it is hard, but once you learn to work with it, basically you got to ignore it. That's the way to work with it. Once you
Yeah.
learn to ignore it, it's easy. If my videos, even up to this day, let me show you. A very recent video of mine got 13,000 views, and I 13, and I could not care less.
Yeah.
That just tells you, okay, maybe the idea wasn't there. The idea wasn't good. The
Yeah.
execution lacked. So you just, yeah, you have to look for answers. There's reason for everything and to
Yeah.
everything. So if you have 13,000 views on your video, then there's a reason to. You got to find it and correct, fix it.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's funny because like I think a lot of people listening to this when they hear 13,000 views, they're like, "Holy crap! I've never gotten that many views." So it's funny because it's just it's all about perspective. It's all about like what you're currently doing. And I mean, I feel like in many ways, because if you're a social media influencer, that's your job. If you got a million followers, it's your job. And in many ways, it's kind of like being a salesman, right? Because you need those views, to be successful. And so you're constantly creating content, hoping you're selling people on the idea that this video is worth watching.
Mhm.
And so I can see how it can be pretty tough sometimes for people, especially if they're getting like, lower views than they would like on a video. But
Right. Yeah, exactly. But again, you just gotta always be looking for the answers.
sure.
Always. It's always improving process. You can never, it can never be enough learning. There's you know, uh storytelling, hooks. Hook is a phrase you say at the beginning of the video to make your viewer not just interested in your video, but watch it till the end. That's called a
Right.
hook. Coming up with correct hooks. Camera positioning, editing, montages, zooms out, sound effects, music, creating emotion, getting people hooked with your content in general, not just the one video. So there's always room for improvement when it comes
Yeah.
to, and that's interesting, and it's just
A lot of factors at play. So,
yeah, yeah,
um,
fun.
so from all your experiences then being on social media, what would you say are the good and bad of social media?
The good, the worst, for me, I would say sometimes you start scrolling TikTok, it's so it's so captivating. Before you know, you've spent an hour just
Okay.
scrolling video. Oh, whoa, what am I doing? And then you go back to your to-do list and it's late and I got time now. Tomorrow I got to be more attentive. So that's, I would say, I'd say, yeah, it's just you get hooked. You start watching a video or two, and the next thing you've been scrolling for an hour or two.
It's addictive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta be very careful with that. As far as good, bro, I got a million. What are you talking? I
Yeah.
mean,
Million.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
for everyone, I mean, it's gotten a lot easier to get some kind of success in life. I think for a lot of people, if you have your views you want to share, you have some opinions you want to show people, and you have something to say, you have something to tell. Uh, Social media is great for that.
Yeah.
Allows for
Yeah.
anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Phone and an internet and creativity.
Sure. Yeah, I think
Right.
that is one of the amazing things because, like, it used to be you would have to, scratch your way up a sort of a hierarchy to be able to have a public voice on something, um, or do something, or like start a business or something like that. But now that you could do something just from your home and upload it on the internet, and boom, people are seeing it. that's pretty amazing, and definitely opens the gates for a lot of people to do stuff they may never have been able to do otherwise.
Right, right. Yeah, you're your own boss. Um, I was I have this student, she does voice acting. And she shared a story when she went she was in, she participated in an audition. I don't know how to say it correctly.
Yeah,
She had an
audition.
audition.
Yeah, yeah.
She auditioned for a role, and the three people, I forgot what they're called, the juries, the
Okay, like
juries,
the judges and
the
stuff.
judges. Yeah, the judges didn't like her. I mean, two of them. There's three of them. Two of them didn't like her, and one did. And then she didn't get the job. And at that time, I thought to myself, I hate everything that has to do with a small group of people deciding whether you're worth it or not, whether
Sure.
you'll
Yeah,
move further. And yeah, with social media, your judge is the audience, and the audience is just regular people like you, and there's millions of them. And as soon as you can come up with stuff that they can relate to, as soon as you can evoke their emotions, their feelings with your content, with your thoughts, you're good to go. You're
yeah,
good.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely right, because I mean, how many of us have gone to the movies and like have seen a film that was considered a brilliant film by other filmmakers, but then people watch it
Yeah.
themselves like this film sucks, like no,
Yes.
like I don't like
Exactly.
this at all. But the popular films among the general public are usually films that are not the ones winning awards. Um,
Mhm.
so it is interesting to see that sort of dynamic at play, and how things can be very subjective, especially when you have a particular niche audience of like judges, for example, compared to
Yeah.
an everyday person. So
Yeah. Yeah. Their taste might be different. They may not be in the right mood. They might just not like you for who you are. And I've faced that a lot growing
yeah,
up. Yeah, just personally can't stand stuff like that. So I'm
yeah,
happy to do the job that I'm doing
sure,
for
sure,
larger audience, just for people, for regular people.
yeah. So when it comes to like the relationships between influencers and their followers, how genuine are those relationships, would you say, on average? And like, I mean, how genuine should they even be? Because I guess there's always a concern of people, you know, getting a little too obsessed with a social media star or influencer, where it's like they kind of, you know, develop what they call like a parasocial relationship, where you think you know someone, but you don't really know them, but you kind of act like it, and you become a little obsessed about this person. What would you say the dynamics like then, for stuff like that?
um, from a follower point of view, because I myself follow a lot some people and creators. Yeah, that's the thing that happens. You just have to control. You have to be aware that that's a thing, because um, I've met some people that I followed, and but by that time I had already followed them for a while. And when you meet them, you act like friends. Oh, hey, how's it
Sure.
going? You want to be friends because you've been watching them for a long time. You know them, or at least
Yeah.
you think you know them. But they're like, oh, hey, hi, okay, photo, all right.
Yeah.
So you gotta be aware of that. Be careful not to uh, be too attached to a person that you actually don't know. In terms of from a creator's point of view, well, when I started TikTok, I love people. I love people. The whole point of me making this content, my big part of my motivation is people. I want to make them happy. I want to make them smile or laugh with my content. And when I first started TikTok, I used to reply to every single comment.
Wow, that's
Literally
dedicated.
every
Yeah.
single, yeah, and people would notice that and go, "Oh my god, you are the only creator to respond to all the comments they have under their videos." But then, of course, as I grew,
Yeah.
there's no time for that. But I still, I'm trying to be as close, as warm with my audience as possible. I'll
Yeah.
I'll crack some jokes in the comments from time to time. I'll respond to their comments in fun ways, in a way that a friend would, not from,
Sure.
oh, I'm up here, you guys are down here,
That's right. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
yeah,
Hello,
I'm trying to
cousins.
be,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
yeah, yeah. I don't have that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as casual with
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, it's good to have that balance. I mean, yeah, I mean, from both a follower and a sort of influencer perspective, because as a follower, obviously you don't want to live vicariously through a person. You want to live your own life, but hopefully
Yeah.
this person has something that can inspire you to, be better in your own life. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, then from the influencer perspective, you want to be, treat these people that are supporting your work, nicely and, interact with them kindly. At the same time, you also don't want to take advantage of them. I think one of the issues in the US that we sometimes find with celebrities is them trying to sell products to people all the time that they themselves don't even use. Um,
Yeah,
but they anything to make a quick buck, so it's like, oh, hey guys, buy this thing
yeah.
because I'll make money if you do. you know
Right, right. Yeah, I've never done those either.
yeah.
I'm very careful with promoting stuff.
And it
I'll,
yeah.
I'll, I'll, you know what? I'll actually, people are so defensive about these things that I'll do a video about the biggest shawarma in Georgia. Actually, the latest video I did, the biggest shawarma. Do you know shawarma or shawarma? I don't know what's. It's like a burrito basically.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Biggest
yeah.
burrito in Georgia. And I'd of course go to a burrito place, right, to get one. It's not promoted. I have not even. I didn't show their logo, the name. I have not
Sure.
mentioned it. Nothing. I just bought the burrito. I sat
Yeah.
down and ate it. I tried to eat. I failed the challenge, but it's too
Yeah.
big. And people in some people in the comments go, "Oh, okay, nice promotion. Oh, well promoted. Awesome. How much did they pay you?" I'm like, you know.
Yeah. I
So
just
that's
bought a
interesting.
burrito. Yeah. I mean, that
Sometimes
is
you don't even promote anything, but people just assume
that
you
you must
are.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, you must
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
They become skeptical pretty fast because so many people do, I guess, do that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, it is interesting, but I mean, and that's, I guess, one aspect of social media that you especially and other people with lots of followers, kind of have to develop thick skin for is like criticism that is bound to come with the more people following your page. Because the only way, I mean, and this is the thing, even if you have no followers, even if you're not on social media, like there's gonna be people that will criticize you,
Mhm.
because unless you do nothing with your life, there's always gonna be someone that has an opinion about something you do. So
Yeah.
um, that's just
Yeah.
par for the
Totally.
course.
Yeah.
But
Criticism is good. Criticism is an awesome thing when you use it correctly.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
actually love criticism. I actually love criticism. Fun story. Okay, when I was a kid, and again, the reason I discovered this method of not studying a language, but enjoying it and becoming
yeah,
fluent through practice
sure,
is because I always like to challenge things that are thought to be the right way in society.
right,
I've always been that way, and I hated the school way of doing things. I hated when teachers would make me do stuff, make me study something I didn't like, didn't enjoy necessarily. So I had this rebellious kind of spirit in me, if you will. So when people criticize me, I kind of like sometimes I kind of like to piss people off.
okay,
Piss people off, but not any people. People who don't like to think, people who don't like to use their brain necessarily, who just blindlessly go with the flow
okay,
and, and do whatever society tells them to. I kind of like going against that. And when people like that get triggered, I know I'm doing the right thing.
okay,
That's what I mean.
okay, yeah.
Don't
Well,
get
I mean,
this. Don't
yeah,
get this in a weird way.
yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, because to a certain extent, when you're doing something, especially if if it's a unique way of doing something, there's gonna be people that are used to a different way that don't like that you're doing it that way.
No.
And so that's bound to get criticism as a result. Yeah, I think that's an overarching issue though with just the education system in many countries though, right? Because so much of education and teaching is very theoretical. There's all these theories about how people learn or should learn or whatever. Um,
Right.
but theories aren't exactly the best. judge of what's actually good or not for how to educate people. And so much of it's just about getting people engaged and interested, which a lot of these theories do not do. I mean, look how many people go through school hating everything and not learning much. And it's because just the way it's structured, it's just uh, incredibly
Yeah.
boring in many ways. And how many people are learning stuff in schools that they might memorize for a test and then forget it immediately the rest of their lives,
That's
but how many
actually
things
that's
are we
actually one of the that's actually one of the examples I bring up whenever talking
right?
about my method and how the school way is not
Oh,
the best.
exactly. But
Yeah,
they don't teach you things that you might actually need later in life, like financial literacy. Things that you're going to have to learn, but unfortunately, many are learning kind of on their own because they don't teach it in school. So yeah,
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of flaws there, and it's good that you kind of try to promote that idea of like, hey, let's think about things a little bit differently because it should be fun to learn things, not a hassle and not torture.
no, thank you. Yeah.
With that, then I'm curious, what tips do you have for people that are interested in growing a social media page? And it could be in any topic, but what would you say are like the sort of the main principles they need to follow if they want to be as successful as possible?
um you're making content not for yourself but for people. Figure out what they like, um what people hate as well about their lives, about themselves maybe even, and use those things in your content. Just find where the demand is. Well, find what the demand is and give that to people. Because a lot of people start out, oh, okay, I want to be an influencer who talks about this, but do people actually need it? Is somebody gonna watch it? Is somebody gonna look it up on YouTube or Google, for example?
Right.
Yeah, the topic has to, what you're doing, what you're putting out there has to be relevant. People have to have need for that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but
ultimately,
then
yeah.
and then months, years of practice improvement in every single aspect. Again, storytelling, uh, just approach, ideas, editing, text, light, camera positions, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of the know your audience side of things as well as just basic production. Don't put out content that is, people can't even tolerate it because the quality is so bad, for example.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. So what are your future goals then? Obviously you got 1 million followers. What's next? 2 million or
So man,
what?
I'm gonna be the biggest. Here's my goal. My goal is I want to make the funnest, the most interesting videos in the languages niche
Okay.
among all language guys, polyglots, whatever. I want to make the best videos in that niche. I want to take over that niche with my ideas and with the quality.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious then, because right now, obviously, you're teaching English to Russian speakers. Have you ever thought about teaching a different language to English speakers?
I have,
Okay.
I have, but I have to achieve some goals first. I have
Sure.
a set of goals. I have to achieve some goals first. First things first. So I have some goals that needs to be done, achieved first, and then from there I can think about broadening what I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Tigran, thanks for coming on and sharing your experiences, and definitely a cool and interesting story about what you do. So,
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very, very good questions. Interesting, thought-provoking questions.